about the Spurs and what's made them so effective in this stretch as we take a look at their first 25 games as opposed to their last 15.
Well, for me, the biggest thing is the defensive rating is they've played so well. I'm always amazed when Pops can get a bunch of slow guys, Mike, to play deep. When your bigs are slow, it's hard to have really schemes that work because they're always got to be in sag in positions where they're covering small amounts of the floor. But Pops finds a way to get those guys to play good defense. Every time I watch them play and they play good defense, I'm like, how does he get these guys to do that? But their defense has impressed me. And then they're shooting 5 percentage points better offensively. And in a game where you shoot 100 shots a game, you're making 5 more. I mean, they are taking better shots and making better shots as a team. And he figured out the defensive blend and the offensive blend. Pop's doing a tremendous job. Give him credit.
It's been a juggling act for him the entire season because he had to decide, how do we want to play offensively now? We lose Danny Green, you lose Kawhi, you lose Slow-Mo, and you've lost some key pieces, okay, to their offense and to their defense, the experience part. He brings in some new guys. Wait a minute, I've got to figure out how do I best use DeMar DeRozan, and DeRozan has to figure out what's a San Antonio style of play. Pau Gasol has played 10 games so far this season. Rudy Gay has played 35. He's had some key injuries to guys, so he's been juggling and mixing and matching and trying to find the guy that can be a shot maker on a given night. It used to be Patty Mills that would come off the bench, and well, I'd look at the box score right away. I'd look to see what Patty Mills did. If he played well, they would win the game usually. Now they've got another guy, okay, who makes some shots coming off the bench, who Forbes was a knockdown shooter all of a sudden, taking Patty's spot on certain nights. Yeah,
Bertans makes shots from the three-point line, doesn't come inside that too much. And the thing I like about him, we talked about this, Mike, earlier a little bit, is, he tells his good shooters to go ahead and shoot a lot of threes. He tells the other guys, hey, look, Pop said, we're going to ease up a little bit on just firing threes up there. Drive and kick, get in the paint and pass it out. You can take threes late in the clock, but don't take them early. Let's not settle. Let's just keep attacking. And I think every time the ball gets in the paint, it puts so much pressure on the defense, Mike, that you get fouls driving the paint, but those kick-out shots, when you get in the paint and you throw it out, everybody shoots those better. There's more rhythm on that shot.
What I love about Pop is he goes against the grain a lot of times from the standpoint that he doesn't just do what the hot thing to do in the league is. You remember the year back before he won the series against Miami, they shot a lot of threes and won games by shooting threes. Then they got to the Miami series that year, moved the ball better than we've ever seen in a long, long time, and that became the new thing. Let's pass the ball quickly. And then he goes back to this kind of team, which is pieces and parts, and he puts it together and plays to what the players' strengths are, what they can do, and this is how we're going to play. We're not going to play the way the league wants us to play.
That's one of the things that he told us as we had the Spurs on TNT on Thursday night. Our broadcast team had a meeting with him prior to the game and asked how it is that he's been able to maintain the Spurs system when the league has gone in such a different playing style direction. And he told us exactly that he's not going to go in that direction simply because the league has, but because he's going to find the strengths of the personnel that he has. He doesn't have the Golden State Warriors roster, so he's not going to make the San Antonio Spurs play the way that they play.
Well, when you have the ability to take your ego and sit down with your best player and say to him, what am I doing wrong? What can I do different? And it turns the entire thing around with LaMarcus Aldridge, where you had a guy who wanted out, wanted to leave, and now winds up getting back to playing like it was the Aldridge from Portland because the coach is willing to sit down and say, what am I doing wrong, and how can I make or use you better?
Yeah, and he didn't say I'm going to take DeMar DeRozan and turn him into a three-point shooter coming up. He lets him ISO, but he ISOs off of action. He'll have a pin-down action to a curl, open up the side, and let DeRozan go to work. So he allows his guys to be who they are inside of his system because, he just doesn't come down, throw you the ball, all 4 guys stand on the other side. They have movement inside of their offense. So when DeRozan is ISOing, it's really often he's coming from the weak side corner with a double pin down action to the top, opening it up for his left or right hand drive. And so they use actions to get him into his ISO. And I think he's done great. And that's one of those weird deals. It doesn't happen in our league a lot. It's happened a few times lately where both teams really benefit from the trade. Like, I just think Kawhi had to get out of San Antonio. That just wasn't going to work. He goes to Toronto. They're, leading the Eastern Conference and playing great basketball. And DeRozan is helping the Spurs kind of turn their whole season around and become a whole different team that plays a little differently than Pop's teams normally do, but still very effective.
Well, we're going to be back with more on an 8-game Monday night in the NBA, including Blake Griffin. You just mentioned Bertans. Well, unfortunately here, this is a low light, not a highlight, as he gets bumped, a reverse dunk.
We didn't say anything about his defense, though. We said he shoots the ball. Yeah, exactly.
That's a fair point by you. Well, the NBA on TNT is Thursday night with a doubleheader, starting with the Celtics in Miami to take on the Heat at 7 Eastern, followed by the Thunder in San Antonio to take on the Spurs at 9:30. Your coverage starts with game time at 6 right here on NBA TV. Look at this. Look how happy DeMar is to see Coach Casey prior to this game.
Yeah. Good to see that. Dwayne's a really good man. Like it.
The big news around the NBA over the last 24 hours has been the firing of Wolves president and head coach Tom Thibodeau. The Wolves are under 500 and 2 games back of the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Interim head coach Ryan Saunders addressed the media earlier today.
Definitely didn't expect to be standing here. You know, I'll first off say how much I respect Coach Tibbs and Coach Andy Greer as well. You know, it's tough when you spend so much time with people, you know, on the road or just in general, and then you see you're not going to see those people as much anymore. That's a tough thing. So I'm thankful for the opportunity, though, and moving forward, I'm looking forward to seeing you know, progress on the court and helping grow this team.
Tuesday on NBA TV, it's players only, baby, as Dennis Scott would say. We've got a doubleheader starting with the Wolves and Thunder at 8 Eastern, followed by the Knicks and Warriors at 10:30. Your coverage starts right here at 7:30 with the Auto Trader pregame show. So to help me break down the first of that doubleheader, the czar, Mike Fratello, joins me to talk Timberwolves halfway through this adversity-laden season, we'll call it. What's a realistic expectation for this young team?
This was a team who was just starting to find its way, 5-3 in their last 8 games. One of their 2 young stars has been playing out of his mind lately, and that's Karl Anthony Towns. The last game, both young guys, Wiggins and Towns, go for 28 points apiece. When you look at their roster, it's kind of an interesting blend. You have 7 players with 5 years or less experience. Then at the other end of the spectrum, you have 4 players with 9 and 10 years of experience. But let's face it, obviously their future is Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins. They've played exactly the same number of home and away games. They have 21 home left, 21 away left, as they take this 19-21 record. And yeah, they're not in the playoffs as it was tonight, but they're only 2 games out of the 8th spot. So Ryan coming in, taking over for Tibbs, he's got a tough assignment here because now you've got to get these guys to buy in. And without knowing how much involvement he's had with these young guys, I would think he's had a lot of time with them in development, that type of thing. They know he's a basketball guy. He's done their scouting and preparation for them for a couple of years now. I would think that they would give him a lot of respect. He's got Ed Pinckney, Malik Allen alongside of him to help him out, and that's their job, to help this young man out. He's got an interesting challenge in front of him.
Well, you mentioned if the playoffs were to start today, they would be on the outside looking in. But because of the parity in the Western Conference through the first 40 games this season, is a playoff push realistic?
I think it's realistic, but obviously the key is health, injuries. Can they go through the second part of the season without any seriously long stretches of key guys being out? Get Covington involved, get Saric involved with this team since the trade took place. If Towns keeps playing like he's playing, that's a huge plus for a young guy coming in when you got a guy who's averaging over 28 points a game for the last 8 games.
Well, you mentioned the split right down the middle with home games and away games, and the next 8 games actually look exactly like that as well. They're split at home and on the road, starting with tomorrow night's matchup at OKC, before they then return to Minnesota to host the Mavericks and the Pelicans this weekend, a couple of teams that are also vying for playoff position.
If I was a head coach stepping in, okay, an interim coach, I would have picked a little bit different opponent than Oklahoma City for my first game to break in.
Yeah.
But welcome to the NBA.
Yeah, surprise, yeah. Welcome. All right, well, I'm going to head over to the other side of the court, and we're going to talk a little bit about, well, the flip side of this matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder, with our Hall of Fame head coach, Kevin McHale. Coach, when you look at what's made the Thunder successful thus far this season, we talk, of course, a lot about the statistical performances that Russell Westbrook has put up in an MVP caliber season, but Let's talk about Paul George and their defensive prowess.
Yeah, I like Paul George. Paul George is really playing well right now. He's at the level where everybody even defers to him. Even Russell Westbrook, when Paul gets going, they gave him the ball and let him create shots for himself. And at late in games, they're giving the ball to Paul to finish out games for him. So I like him. But what I really like about OKC is their defense. There's a couple things that they do. They lead the league in deflections, so they're long and they get out in the passing lanes, and you're seeing right now Paul George knock down shots. And their ability to defend, though, is what got me excited. They get their hands on lots of balls, whether it be deflections, block shots, and it turns the points really quickly. They have Steven Adams in the middle that can really control the paint, and he's going to bump and bruise you as you see these guys get steals galore. And big Steven Adams holds down the paint. And then they can switch a lot of stuff. I like the teams that can switch. They not only switch, they switch to deny. So as picks come down, they get up and they deny the passes. That's why they have so many deflections. So I'm more excited about their defense this year than of anything else. I haven't really bought into OKC the last couple of years. They're just impossible for me to like. They play so well, then they play so bad at times. They're just up and down. But their defense right now has got me believing that they could really make a playoff run. You can beat people in this league with defense if you're dedicated and doing it. Now, I know it's an offensive league, but you can go out there, and they have the type of athletes that can get out, deny, and play really good defense on the perimeter.
Well, you're exactly right. We've spent the last couple of seasons, and especially last season, talking about when the Thunder were going to find their way. It was a team that was inconsistent to have so much talent on its roster. Do you see anything apart from its defensive consistency as the reason why they could be contenders this season in the West?
Yeah, I think that they can bring in and play Schroeder alongside of Westbrook, and I think that just gives them a unique ability. Westbrook can come off picks, get off the ball. Schroeder can handle the ball. He can get his own offense, but he can also distribute. And I just think less is more. I think, Carmelo there, everybody was trying to figure out how to play with each other. Carmelo leaves that, opens up more opportunity for Paul George. And as I said when we started this segment, they believe in Paul George. They give him the ball late. They let him close games. Westbrook is deferring to him. And Russell Westbrook doesn't defer to many people, and he's deferring to him. And again, I just think that less is more for this team. But I believe in them, as I said earlier. I believe in them because of their defense. I like the way they D up.
Well, you just said it. Russ may not defer to many people, but he has become more of an offensive facilitator when you look at his numbers this season as opposed to the last couple. What has impressed you most about his play?
Well, he hasn't been shooting the ball well this year. But that's the thing I like, is you can control the game. I always said you're really not a basketball player if the only way you can control the game is by scoring. Then you know what you are? You're a scorer.
Right.
If you're a basketball player, you can control the game and score 10, 12 points. I mean, assist, rebound, defend, do all of these things. And, Westbrook's a basketball player. And that's why I really like the guy. So he's not shooting the ball well. He hasn't been in great rhythm. He started off with knee surgery, missing training camp and all that stuff. But I like the fact that he's kind of coming out, testing the water a little bit on some shots. And if he's not hitting it, he's just playing the game. There's many, many ways to win a basketball game. It's not all about, can I get 35 points? And Westbrook can affect the game defensively, offensively, rebounding, a lot of different ways. He's such a unique, powerful guard in this league, like the likes we haven't seen. He's unique, and I like the way he's playing on the defensive end particularly.
Well, come with me
to
center court as I have both coaches join me now to talk about the team that typically sits atop the league, the defending champion Golden State Warriors. Now, the second half of our players-only doubleheader Tuesday night features those Warriors hosting the New York Knicks. The Warriors sit in second, currently in the Western Conference, but they've posted their worst mark in the Steve Kerr era through these first 40 games. What do you attribute that to? Are you concerned at this point?
I'm not really concerned. Obviously, people aren't used to seeing 6 home losses for Golden State already, not used to seeing them in the third position in the Western Conference. But it is a grinding thing to go through, and Kevin can attest to this. When you're a championship caliber team, and every year, every team is hunting for you. You're the biggest game once certain teams schedule every night out. It eventually gets to you because you have to perform at a championship level. And you slip up just a little bit, that opponent is playing at the top level against you that particular night. They've had some injuries. They have some guys going through some tough stretches. They'll bring it back together. But right now, it's going to take a little time, and they may have help coming on the way.
Yes, that they do. And DeMarcus Cousins, that was the perfect segue, by the way. There's still no timetable set for his return, but he was a full participant in Warriors practice again on Monday. I got to stop calling you guys coach, because coach and coach. Okay, Coach McHale, what do you think that Boogie's going to bring to this team?
They'll be better offensively with Boogie on the floor because he's a great passer. He can play out on top of the key. He can make passes. He's a big body. He sets screens. He can get guys open. I think he also understands ball and body movement. I think he's got a good basketball IQ on the offensive end. Defensively wise is where I get concerned with him on the floor. They switch a lot of stuff. And, man, you're going to have a hard time switching a lot of these pick and rolls with DeMarcus Cousins. So with Boogie, you're going to have to figure out what kind of scheme do you want. Are you going to push it, ice it down the baseline? He's going to have to get in that position, guard two for a while.
Fast.
Is he going to show and recover? And so there's a lot of things that they got to do with him defensively that will be different. My concern with Golden State, though, overall, isn't, you can say they're not playing well. Green hasn't really hit stride. I watch them play, and there's some funkiness out there. There's some sideways glances of things going on, and they're just like they had a little bit of that scrum in the huddle between Green and KD. That usually either brings a team together and everybody goes like, hey, you're right, we got to play better. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard them say, no, we've made amends, we've done this. And a couple things hurt teams on a playoff run. Usually it's injuries and age. You get older, you have your run, it's over. In today's game is free agency. And then, man, it's internal bickering. That's the one that I'm always worried about, because everybody starts looking around thinking, man, who's going to be here next year? What's going on next year? Is KD going to, all this stuff. And that hurts a team. You got to be singly focused to win a championship, and that's win every single game you play in and compete at a high level every night.
Well, we're going to be back with a whole lot more from our NBA TV studios next, including live looks from around the league. Elsewhere on this 8-game Monday night, the Spurs are looking to extend a 4-game winning streak as they head to Detroit to take on the Pistons.